We'll call to order the regular meeting of the East Point Community Schools, October 9th, 2023 at 6:33. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grunberg.
Here.
Dr. Early.
Here.
Mr. Williams here. Mr. Roscoe.
Here.
Mrs. Rayford.
Here.
Mrs. Richardson. Mrs. Grunberg.
Here.
You all stand for the pledge. Dan will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get into approval of the agenda, I think I let everybody know up here already, we're going to be adding an item under 8. There'll be a D. If any of you have agendas out there and you want to write it down. It's going to be Board of Education. 1 is going to be a discussion item only, new board member orientation draft. Okay. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
Place forth a motion to approve the agenda as written. With the correction, with the proper correction.
Support.
You can.
It's D, but it was not as written.
Right.
Is there a second?
I did.
Oh, okay. You got it? Please call the vote.
Mr. Roscoe.
Yes.
Dr. Early.
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg.
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford.
No.
Mrs. Richardson. Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Is there a motion for consent agenda?
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Please call the vote.
Dr. Early.
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Grunberg.
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe.
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford.
No.
Mrs. Richardson. Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Okay, next we have superintendent's report. Superintendent Gibson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and those of you joining us in the audience at home. This is your superintendent's report. This year, we're celebrating moments, so we'll continue to highlight a few of those for you. Last week was our Salute to Excellence dinner, where we and the community of Roseville gathered to celebrate our first responders, both fire and police, as well as our teachers and students of the year. It was a great night of celebrating our community and being present for each other. Thank you to all of the board that attended, as well as our community members. Media center improvements, as the board and the community are aware, we've been using our ESSER 3 funds to purchase new books in the high school library, as well as our elementary schools. The new furniture in our elementaries is giving students flexible seating options, and the new books are increasing our circulation at the high school. Here you have a high school student sneaking in a read of a graphic novel that came from our media center. The children, the staff, they are appreciating all of the investments that we put into our media centers. Positive U is a program kicking off at East Point Middle School. The Positive U program helps students work on goal setting, dig deeper into weekly, monthly themes and goals, as well as journaling. This superintendent likes to watch the videos that the middle school puts out because it is about celebrating who we are as individuals and how we are unique and how we fit into the world together. It fits with a lot of the work that we're doing across the organization in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But the first part of that is being proud of who you are, where you come from, and what makes you a unique and amazing individual. So really exciting to watch that kick off at East Point Middle School. Angela Bisk is our elementary librarian, and the past week she hosted a book tasting for the students of Forest Park to give them a chance to sample books and pick out something to read. She covered the tablecloths as if eating in an Italian-style restaurant and had books out for children to sample and see and touch and learn about. Great opportunity to get students excited about reading at Forest Park. All across the district, there was lots of Count Day fun, which the building principals talked about is how do we make fun more every day? We had record attendance. Our numbers are up at Forest Park and Pleasant View especially. So lots of fun activities, but a Count Day isn't the only day to send your kids to school. Every day counts, and we are working with our principals and instructional teams on how to incorporate more hands-on activities throughout the school day to encourage attendance across the district. East Point Middle School football, our 7th and 8th grade combined football team shut out Wolf Middle School last week 40-0.
Wow.
This is, they are undefeated. Their final game is tomorrow night, 5 p.m. at Memorial Field. If you like middle school football, our team's the team to watch. We expect great things from these young athletes. And the implementation of middle school football this year has been a huge asset. Students come to school on game day and are all in on academics and learning to set a great example and be able to play in that game at night. So congratulations again to our East Point Middle School football team. Upcoming events, parent-teacher conferences are this Thursday, October 12th. It is a half-day for students. Your schools will be communicating to you the times for parent-teacher conferences. Friday is our homecoming game versus Port Huron Northern, 7 p.m. On Saturday evening, we have our homecoming dance at Athena Hall. October 27th marks the end of the first marking period for students. And on Halloween, we will have a half day of school for students. We did have a change to our Gleaners food distribution. It is now the first Thursday of each month and is at 11:30 a.m. instead of the 9:30 a.m. time that it had been. And that concludes the superintendent's report for this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is hearing of the public. We'll open that up at 6:35. Does anyone wish to be heard? Does anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, hearing of the public is closed. At 6:36, we'll say. Next, we have discussion action curriculum.
Good evening. I'd like to invite Principal Felicia Trice. Felicia Trice is in her second year as a principal here at East Point Community Schools, and she is the fearless leader leading Pleasant View Elementary School. Principal Trice is also the first principal in a series of principal meetings across the year here at the board meeting to bring more information about what's happening in our schools to the Board of Education and to the community at large. So I'll turn it over to Principal Trice. Welcome, Principal Trice.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I wanted to start off by bringing you what we have been doing so far at Pleasant View. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to start with our data. So we have completed all of our testing at Pleasant View, which included NWEA testing, iReady testing, and some LLI reading testing that we did with all of our students. So what I'm showing you is what our average would be per grade level as we tested in the fall. So as you can see with our third graders, our average rate of 114 third graders tested together was 172.2, which puts them at the beginning of second grade year, which for third grade, that isn't bad because we don't have that much to really try to grow them. I would take a year over a couple of years of trying to grow them and getting them ready for fourth grade. If we were to take the M-STEP today, we would have approximately 36% of our students partially proficient for the test, and then we would have 13% proficient and 6% advanced. which is actually good because this time when I presented to you last year, we had 0 at advanced and proficient. So this is just fall testing. We know we have a lot of work to do, but it feels good to know that we don't have such of a hard climb to get there with our new third graders. For their math, they're at the end of first grade. And again, you can see where we would be at if we actually took the M-STEP today, as well as with our fourth grade students. They are at mid-year second grade in math and reading. We do know that we have a lot to get done with our fourth graders. The next slide shows our fifth grade students. And currently, right now, after testing all of our fifth grade students, we are at the beginning third grade for all of our fifth graders, with 2.5% would be advanced in reading, and we wouldn't have any proficient or advanced mathematically. A good thing about the Pleasant View data, and I actually went and did a dive and went back to 3 years ago. In 2021, we were at the 9th percentile for math, and if you look at where we are now, we doubled that. We're at the 18th percentile, so we're definitely moving in the right direction. And in 2021 for reading, we were at the 16th percentile, and we are now at the 24th percentile. So we are making those gains to move our students, and I know that when we are in 2024 spring, we will be higher away from those 20s when you see us in the spring. Next, I wanted to just show you our iReady data and let you know where we are with our students at Pleasant View. The yellow indicates the amount of students that are 1 grade level behind, which is approximately 26% of my students. And then that orange slice is the amount of students that the iReady test states they are 3 or more years behind, and it's approximately 40% of those students. And 2 grade levels behind, it is 34, you round it up, 34% of the students. So we definitely have, math is my target area for anybody that visits my building. I'm always talking about math. So we definitely know we have a lot of work to do. Our action steps include, we started our SST instantly the first week of school. We had the spring data, so we did not wait. We instantly started it over the summer. And I do want to give kudos to my Pleasant View staff that came and worked with me for the summer. They didn't have to, but they did. Right now, for third grade, we have 29 students in our SST program. For fourth grade, we have 19, and fifth grade, we have 26. And as I explained to you before, these students have the opportunity to move out of this program, providing that they show growth. We have our something new this year is our small group interventions, and it's done by our paras. Third grade, we're focusing on handwriting and independent reading skills. And with our fourth grade students, there's 30 students that would have received a letter from the state. They're getting additional reading support. So they go in small groups of 2 because that works for that para, and she can get more done than having a large group of students. With our fifth graders, they are doing math support, and they can have no more than 3 in each one of those math supports, and it goes on all day. So they're getting pulled out of the classroom, they're getting a low-level instruction, and then they get to go back into the classroom. The teacher is instructed to teach grade level. All of the supports are coming from this para team. I meet with my paras twice a week. We have rotation checks so that I make sure that these interventions and supports are being done by every student, and each para has to have a working log. And those logs get turned into me every week. What we're doing as well is our school-wide passage-based writing plan, and we just incorporated this 2 weeks ago. However, we knew that we needed to do this to improve our M-STEP scores at Pleasant View. For count day, I skipped attendance, I'm sorry. I don't want to skip that because I think we're doing good here. So we did have an increase in enrollment. We had to add a third grade class at Pleasant View, which we were excited about. Our average daily attendance is 217. We have a total of 268 students. So 92 of our students are on track for attendance. 61 are at risk. Those are the 61 that we are trying to reach and get into the building every day, as well as have meetings with those parents. And for our chronically absent students, it's at 110 students. So what we have been doing lately is having meetings with parents to focus on attendance. So our next slide, we can go to all things Pleasant View. On our count day, 90% of our students were present, 100% of our students were verified, and again, we did have increased enrollment. That picture is all of the students in the gym after we watched our count day cinema. That was interesting. Parent partnership. So we had our Hustle Back to School event. 145 families actually came that day. It was nowhere to park. I'm almost scared sometimes that the fire marshal is going to go to Superintendent Gibson when we have things like this, but luckily we had things outside, so everybody didn't stay in the inside, and we were able to rotate them out in groups. Our grade level parent meeting, we had our fifth graders first. Out of 75 parents, we had 50 show up. I did give the opportunity for 2 different times. I had a morning session and an afternoon session. I think I need to do a Zoom for that other 25 because they were like, Ms. Trice, we just can't get there, but we need to be there. Our attendance parent town hall meetings, we are having our first one in 2 weeks, and then we're doing another one in November. Again, we want to target those parents and find out how can we support them to make sure that our kids are getting to school. Part of our data, when we really look at it, the kids that come every day, they have growth. And they did not miss a beat from spring to fall. So it's actually just getting those other students to come into the building. So what I did at our parent nights is I'm starting to do more surveys with the parents on attendance, centered around attendance. And these are the lovely things that the parents think we need to do more often with the students to get them in. However, outside of giving them tickets to go see the Detroit Lions, we pretty much do everything up there. We don't have a king and a queen of attendance. That was something that was put to me, so I think we need to invest in the king crown and the queen crown and maybe try that once. Office helper for a day, we did have a principal of the day. He did not miss a day last year. He even did behavior referrals with me last year. And tried to change his voice, and I explained to the team that maybe this is how I sound to him, so I'm going to have to work on that. So, but we are doing a lot of those things that are up there, and I'm definitely, with my team, we're going to try to do way more. And more feedback, we asked the parents, what can we do as a school to help make sure your students attend daily? Parents talked about preventing bullying, reward students monthly that come daily, reach out to parents to see if the school can support and allow a grace period for tardies, and eliminate half days. Another question we asked are, what are some things you want us to know about your student when they miss school? And it was some had ongoing medical conditions. However, we did state to them, through our truancy team. I had the truancy team come in and talk to our 5th grade parents, and they will be in for my 4th grade and 3rd grade parents as well. When your student is out for medical, get some kind of document and bring it to the school. The truancy officers do not mess with them if they have those. You just can't call us and say, oh, I went to the doctor, and you don't bring us anything, and then the student goes to the doctor 3 times out the week. We need something so that we can verify why your student wasn't in the building. A parent put, if I'm going to be tardy, I'll keep my student at home, which that I like to credit, at least she was honest. So we have to work on that parent right there. If the student is feeling ill, we do encourage them to keep them home. We do not want all of our students sick. This school has accommodated my student already, again, medical conditions, and if my child doesn't feel like coming, I don't bring them. So I just wanted to share with you guys some of the things that, the feedback I get when I ask questions about attendance. On the next slide, I'm just keeping you up to date on what's going on at Pleasant View. In the upper left-hand corner, that is a picture of one of our new 3rd graders. We had Kona Ice there on the back-to-school day. I do not believe that man inside that truck had a chance to have a break. It was busy. The line wrapped around a corner at one point before we even started. Next, you see the students. They actually went on their PBIS attendance trip today. Those are the students pictured in that top. They went to the apple orchard. They have never been absent or tardy. So we took them out, and a lot of kids were like, Principal Trice, why didn't we get to go? Do we get to try at it again? And I was like, you absolutely get to try for the next field trip. And at the bottom again, that was our our count day. Actually, that's all of the kids in there watching a Disney movie with popcorn, cotton candy, ice cream, whatever we had, we put it in the gym, and they ate it. So I'm sorry to my parents that's watching this, and the child probably came home sick. But we made sure that we participated with the kids and had some of the stuff that they had as well. Upcoming events would include our 4th grade parent meeting, again, the attendance town hall meeting, Donuts with Dad. We will have our first one. Superintendent Gibson was with me on Friday, and she can tell you we have an abundance of dads this school year. So we wanted to get them involved early and not wait until the spring. Our trunk or treat we're having on October the 26th. We have 50 cars that will be scheduled to handle Pleasant View as well as Forest Park students. Our holiday talent show with the Glee Club, and then our Christmas play will be at the high school, Charlie Brown Christmas, which you guys are in store for something great because our new art teacher is making all of the props this year. So that is my report for Pleasant View.
I have a question and a comment. First off, question, Donuts with Dad, do you have to actually be a dad of a student that goes to your school? Because I think there's a guy down here to my right who's a dad and doesn't have a student in that school that would probably like a donut, though.
Actually, no, and he was there.
I'm just pulling your leg a little bit. But I seen a look from somebody down here as soon as Donuts with Dad came up. Somebody kind of looked at me like, their eyes lit up. And then the other one was, I have a comment as far as your back-to-school event. I don't know, I wasn't surprised it was that large when you're giving them snow cones going in the door and ice creams going out the door. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked that you had that many showed up. And I have had that cone of ice, and it's incredible. The flavors are unbelievable. That's all I got. Anybody else?
I think, you go ahead, Mary. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I'm glad that you're continuing your efforts to always reach out to parents. And what happened to the popcorn?
We are doing the popcorn. We do it every Friday.
Oh,
Yep.
I haven't had a notice from anybody.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll tell Wendy, make sure she lets you know. We do it every Friday.
I just want to commend you for what you and your staff is doing at your school there. I mean, the support from the teachers, parents, children buying in to the program. I just want to commend you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I had just a couple of things. I really want to say thank you for thinking about those parents who can't make it. If I'm working early in the morning and I don't get home till old dark 30, there's no way I can make it. And I'm really glad that you're going to make accommodations for those parents because they need to be included. And because you are considering them, I'm sure they'll probably make every effort to be able to attend those Zoom meetings. My next thing is the art teacher. Tell her to call me because I'm craftaholic. So if she needs some help,
I will let him know.
yes, please do.
I have a comment. Can I go?
Go.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's looking this way. They're all ignoring me. I went to 3 out of the 4 elementary curriculum nights, and they were all really, really nice, and there was parents and everything. But I just have to say, I went to Ms. Trice's, and I was just blown away. Like, even walking in the door, the kids were so excited, just to get that snow cone. And then you walked in, and there was just kids everywhere. Like, I think you had every kid in the school there. Is what it seemed like. It was just outstanding.
I don't know who brought the donuts, but I had this great apple fritter. I mean, it's great. But when I went back to get my coloring book, it was gone. So that's the only complaint I got.
We will make sure. Mr. Clark, one of our teachers' husbands, he donated those. I will make sure that
Thank you.
the next time you come, I promise.
I just like to say thank you for letting us know that Donuts for Dads is coming back twice this year. I'm excited. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know I heard a couple of things about some of the excuses that the parents use for their child not coming to school. And besides being Jesus or somebody like that, it's got to be something that they can understand, that they are the parent and they're responsible for their child's education. And that just seems so strange to me, that if they didn't feel like it.
But I think not giving up on the attendance conversation, and always putting it back to them this year is going to be something that's achievable at Pleasant View this year. Every post that I put on Dojo or in our PBIS is about attendance. So, in our surveys, some of our parents complete them, and they actually reach out if it's a neighbor. I noticed that one of our students lived next door and the child wasn't coming, so that mom is walking that student to school now, and it was because she attended the 5th grade parent meeting, and the young lady is in 3rd grade. She said, well, if I can walk my 5th grader, I can bring, it's little things like that at the end of the day that keep having this conversation about attendance that I think will bring about a change. But if we don't have it, and then it keeps going, we keep getting the same data outcome, so.
I believe you because of all the effort that you put together for the students and the parents. I believe you.
Thank you.
Building on the attendance conversation, it is a national challenge across the country, across the state. What we're seeing in our data at Pleasant View, we have to remember that the children that we're serving in 3rd and 4th grade were part of a group of children who did not have consistent educational opportunities during our COVID pandemic. We didn't, as a society, say that it was important to come to school. We said, stay home and protect yourselves. So we noticed the patterns that when you attend school, your children get closer to grade level, they are performing better, and we as a society have to continue to help each other. And I think that's a great story that you shared, Principal Trice, because parents don't need to be blamed and shamed either. We are where we are as parents, and sometimes we need other people to lift us up and support us as parents, because it is not an easy road. And I can attest to the fact that I've got school-age kids, and my community supports me in helping to make sure my kids are where they need to be. And that's something that East Point can do together better, is that when we encourage attendance and when we encourage coming to school, we can have better outcomes for our community and for our society, and together we can make better citizens. But I think we've got a lot of healing and a lot of work to do coming out of the pandemic. Principal Trice, thank you so much for sharing this evening.
Thank you.
Your work at Pleasant View, connecting families and students back to school, as well as the candor about where we are in our data. It's okay to be where you are. It is not okay to stay there. And I know that the curriculum team will share more with the board and the community about where we are organizationally in our student assessment data, and where we aspire to be, and the pieces putting in place to make that happen. So thank you, Principal Trice. Thank you.
Okay, next item is human resources. I don't think you have to do any introduction. Is there a motion to support the instruction new hires, EFE?
Place forth a motion to support the instruction of new hires, EFE.
Support.
Any discussion? Questions? Please call the vote.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford? Yes. Mrs. Richardson?
Okay, next item, business operations. I figured this guy with the, who's gonna come up and.
Good evening. Which resolutions first? Or
The first resolution is bond contracts for mechanical and electrical equipment upgrades.
thank you. So this evening, we have some planned work done or before you for the summer of 2024 and summer 2025. So for the summer of 2024, Our two elementary schools, Forest Park and Crestwood, along with Bellevue Elementary, we'd like to purchase mechanical units, meaning like the air conditioning units for those buildings, along with mechanical upgrades for the 4 elementary schools and early learning center. There's a very long lead time on the front-end electrical, which is over 1 year, and then on the mechanical units, it's a little bit under a year. So that's why we have to plan ahead. We're planning on using bond money for this. So the specs were drafted by our architects and reviewed by our construction management, and Kerry Wysop and myself. They were put out to bid, and the bid specs, I mean, the rewards came back, and the work will be divided over 3 contractors, totaling $7.4 million, or $7,483,727. Along with that, we'd like to request a 10% contingency for unforeseen items. Like a lot of times, once you open a wall, there's things in there you didn't know about, like when you did your initial assessment. So it could be like some of the wiring is bad or the plumbing is bad. That would have to be replaced in order to pass code. So rather than delay the process, once a contractor is out there, we need to keep them working. So we're requesting a 10% contingency where those items can be addressed with the approval of, the construction manager, Kerry Wysop, myself, and the superintendent. And the superintendent will notify you if there's any change orders that apply to this contingency throughout the process. This is going to be paid for with bond money. We probably won't spend anything on the actual equipment until it arrives. So that would probably be like spring, April, May of next year for the equipment, and then sometime during the following year for the electrical equipment. So we don't pay for it until we get it, but this starts the order process so we can get in line for the manufacturing of these items. So I'm requesting your approval to spend bond proceeds totaling $8,232,100.
I have a question.
Any questions?
Well, I kind of wanted to put a motion on the floor first, and then we can do the question.
Okay.
If you don't mind. I would move that the board approve bond contracts for mechanical and electrical equipment upgrades as presented, including the dollar amount that was presented.
Okay.
Support.
You got that? No. Well, I just wanted, one thing I just wanted to make a comment on, I guess maybe it's a question comment. If I'm not mistaken, this will be the first step in upgrading all of our buildings eventually.
Yes.
Being air conditioned.
Yes.
Okay. I
Yep.
want the public to understand
Yep.
that this is what this is all about, and this is
Right.
what we've been trying to do. And it's been a long time coming, right, because it kept getting pushed back because of supply chain issues and all kinds of stuff,
Yep.
right?
And there's
So now we're finally able to start moving forward on
Be
this.
spread over several summers. We just can't find the equipment or the labor to get everything done in one in 1 or 2 summers. There's just not enough contractors to go around. So,
So this is just a start, but I mean,
Just a start.
even though it's, I think it's 3 buildings, right?
well, 3 for the equipment.
3 for the equipment,
which
but you're
we'll
going to do an
install. It
electrical
won't
upgrade on the
It
other.
won't be connected. And then the following summer will be the electrical upgrades for all 5 buildings, and then we'll connect those 3 buildings in 2025.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr.
My question, I have 2 questions, actually. Is there somewhere that we can store the equipment safely while we're waiting?
Yes. So most likely the vendor will store it on their premises.
Oh, okay.
And if that runs into issue, we have the warehouse and we'll have proper insurance in regards to where it's stored.
Okay, and my second question will be based on the contingency. I know when you get to open the walls, there's no telling what's there because the building is however old.
Yeah.
Is 10% enough to beat a contingency? Because is that the standard or is it 15%?
It's standard. It's the standard.
That is the standard,
Yeah.
10%?
If there's something that's really big, and we find it early enough, we may, evaluate whether we use the contingency or not, or come back to the board for a contract addendum.
Okay.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
My question, Rob, will be, all these units will be brand new, right?
Pardon me?
All the units are brand new, right?
Yes.
Okay. Will there be any control rooms or things of that nature? And if so, are you tapping into the old system to,
So our controls have been slowly upgraded. We had, about 2.5 years ago, Siemens was in the district and did a performance contract where they changed out the lighting and put like LED lighting in. And also, they also did some control updates. But if there's controls that need to be updated, they will be updated. It's part of the package.
you very well probably
Yeah.
need some retrofits and things of that nature.
Correct. And the warranty on this stuff, even if we get the equipment a year before it's installed, will not begin until the equipment is installed. And then we'll go through what's called the commissioning process, where they test out all the equipment, make sure it's running as it's designed to run, and that's when the warranty starts, is after that commissioning process is through.
And my last question, who will maintain or engineer those systems, if
Well,
need be?
Going forward, we've been using a company called Master Electrical, I think, that runs our controls. Like, so if we have a building problem and we can't handle it, they have the software that they can go in and adjust the temperature of the building, or the software tells them where the problem it is, so they can, send someone out to work on it. But initially, it'll be covered under warranty from the manufacturer, then Master Temp will probably take over after that point.
So the pricing is baked into the
Yes.
contract?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I was looking at the wording in the resolution. So the thing that caught my attention was the date of 9/25, and I was trying to figure out if I had slept through part of the meeting.
No. So we didn't know how much it would cost initially, and we were hoping to try to squeeze it into the ESSER money. But when the bids came back, there might have been enough money in ESSER, but it was cutting it really close. And and plus we have to get all these equipment in and paid for by the end of the ESSER grant, which currently is September 30, 2024. We have an opportunity, we just found out this week, that may be extended another year beyond that. So with the cost, maybe exceeding what we had available in ESSER and the constraint by spending it by September 30, 2024, we decided to wait and see if the bond passed. And, the vendor agreed to hold the pricing. And now, once the bond passed, we just need the board's approval so that the vendor can move forward. So the pricing is still good, and actually, it's a really good deal because, everything's escalating, so. Just, good question.
Any others? Please call a vote.
Okay. Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson, and Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Okay, item number 2, resolution for reimbursement of general funds by bond fund.
Yes, as you know, our voters in the community agreed to pass a vote to raise $36.4 million in a sale of bonds, and that sale of bonds is not scheduled to occur until January or February of 2024. In the meantime, the district will have some relatively small expenses, maybe $100,000 to $200,000 in architectural fees and other professional fees, like to do the planning for these long-range projects. So what we'll do, since we don't actually have the cash yet, is we'll pay for it out of the general fund, and then once the bond passes, we do a journal entry to move those expenses into the bond and reimburse the general fund for that same amount of money. So this is the board's approval to utilize the general fund during that time period until we get the actual bond proceeds to the district.
I would move that the board approve a resolution for a reimbursement of general fund by bond fund as presented.
Support.
One comment is thank you to the district and all the employees and everybody for doing such a good job that we actually have enough in the general fund where we have the opportunity to do this. Because if there was not enough money in the general fund, we would not have the opportunity to do this.
Yep.
And the other comment I have is that the superintendent mentioned this to me, it's 2-3 weeks ago probably, about being able to do this, potentially being able to do this. And I requested that they run it past legal to make sure everything's
Yes.
legal and that we can go ahead and do this. And they said, yes, it's fine, so that's why it's being brought now, is because it has been checked out.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay, yeah, that was
That
gonna be my question. Yeah.
Wow, man, that was
Right.
pretty good. I hit 3 yes. Okay, is there any other questions? Please call the vote.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Dr. Ehrlich,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson, and Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Motion carries, meeting adjourned.
No.
Oh, wait a minute.
Got
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Ooh, after I already added something and then I almost took it away. I'm sorry. Okay, next we have, and you're gonna throw it up? We have the orientation draft that we wanted to go through. I don't know if we want to go through it line by line. I think everybody's had the ability to look at it at one point or another, right? We don't have to go through it line by line?
Do you want to highlight,
Is there anything that you'd like to highlight? Yeah.
Basically just, with the new board members coming on, just to explain a little bit about it, this is what we came up with as a committee. And I want to thank the committee and everybody that participated with being patient and getting this done. But we have a few things that we like. And again, if any of the board sees anything that they want changed, this is just a draft, so, or one added or amended, just give me a call or let Wendy know and she'll contact us and we'll have the final meeting later on in the week and we'll add it or subtract it or whatever. But it's pretty much cut and dry. We have a few things that I thought were very important, like the December, when the new board member gets elected in November, we wanted them to we wanted to invite them to the board meeting, not necessarily sit up here with the board, but invite them to the board meeting just to get them, get a feel of how a board meeting is ran and things like that. That was one thing that was important. And, the changes that I thought were important was with the first meeting in January, you didn't want, and some of the drafts we looked at, they had the January board meeting, which is the first 2 meetings for the new board members. They had stuff about finances and all of that stuff in there. And we felt strongly as a team that should be moved to at least the second or third month. So we came to the conclusion that would be too much at one time after the first meeting. So the board also felt strongly about the new board members meeting with the SOUP and the board president. A lot of those things were very important to us, just to get them acclimated, introduce them to different board members and, things of that nature. Is there anything I'm missing? I think those were kind of the real important things I thought. Oh yeah, and superintendent evaluation tool training. Those were very important, just to give them a feel of how we do things when it comes time to do it, as far as evaluating the superintendent's progress. So those are just a few things that I thought that we should highlight and actually put in there for oncoming board members.
Does anybody else have anything up here they'd like to offer for consideration?
I think
I think they did an excellent job, but I do have a couple things.
Okay.
Nothing really major. If you're looking down, if you look down to the second box, where you get to professional learning, you have MASB 101. I don't know if that's strong enough, because 101 is just one class, that's the first class.
Yeah.
I think as a board, now that we have certification, we're a master board, I think, I would just like to see it strengthened to where the expectation, or it's strongly suggested, or whatever, that they attain level 1 certification, rather than just MASB 101.
Well, I think that's what we meant to put, it was just
Okay.
misworded, but
Okay.
we meant the
Okay.
whole.
There was that one I noted.
And not only that, John, it's under first board meeting details. Those are things that are gonna be discussed with that new board member.
Right, but if we're going to have a document where it's
Right.
written, we should probably have it written that, because I want it to be an expectation. We can't mandate that they do.
Yeah. So
Right.
you'd like
But we
it
can
to
say it's an expectation, or we strongly suggest it, because, it's something we've worked hard to do, all of us up here,
We
to
kind of
achieve that.
we kind of voted against that because, and the reason why I agreed with not making it a mandate.
Well, I'm not saying to mandate, I'm just saying strongly suggest that they
Well,
do it, right.
I mean, it's suggested, but it's not strongly suggested, because we as a board have accomplished something that is very spectacular with just leading by example. So instead of like forcing it on people and maybe running them away, we want to attract them, but let them know that as a board, this is the standard. So that's why it's worded like that.
And then the other one this is kind of a little bit outside of the box, but there is another district, at least one that I know of in Macomb County, that after candidates submit petitions to run, rather than waiting till the election transpires, they actually meet with the non-incumbents. Couple board members, superintendent, meet with them so they can answer any questions they have as far as what board service may be about, so that there can be a little bit of a conversation before, because the objective is, out of all of this to me, is to make sure everybody's up to speed, right, Addie? You would have preferred to be a little bit more up to speed on your first meeting, right? It would have been nice. I mean, we can be honest up here. I know I would have. And even though they allowed me, after I got elected, to sit at the board table, because that used to be a standard years and years ago,
Bring it back.
I still didn't feel that I was up to speed by the first meeting when I was actually voting. So the more I could have had beforehand, the better. You know what I mean?
And we also, as a committee.
But just for
discussed that, too.
consideration, you guys are doing your work and you're doing fantastic
Great job.
work.
I mean, we discussed that, and we came together as a committee, and we thought, well, I think it should be after the election.
So you're
but
saying after the
before-
election?
Yeah, after the
Okay.
election, but before the first actual meeting
Okay.
in January.
Good to me.
I have a question about the Robert's Rules. Is that the full or the, Cliff Note version?
We give them the book.
The full book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Sorry, Robert. I mean, I didn't mean to answer.
Oh, go ahead. You're fine.
We're all on the committee. I still haven't heard Addie. She was on the committee too.
I saw her whispering over there.
Well, I'd like to commend
Get 'em,
this
guys.
subcommittee of the Board of Education for their work on the new board member orientation. The committee brainstormed what was important to them. As the board knows, Cassie Gruenberg and Addie Richardson were new board members in this superintendent's first year, so they had lots of feedback about ways that they could have been onboarded better as Board of Education members, and they were candid and honest. The team generated a giant list of everything that was important, and then the committee parted it out into month-by-month chunks of information so that new more board members would get information. I think the committee did an exceptional job of getting a working product here to all of you, and I, again, am so appreciative of Addie and Cassie and Ed's leadership chairing the committee. I think they did a great job representing everything and then taking the perspectives of new board members and listening to that perspective. So, very nice work.
Great job.
Exactly what I was going to say. Anything else? Now the meeting is adjourned at, what is that, 12:22? Oh, no, that's not right. 7:23.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. What did you find, Maddie?